Okay, hello everyone. Thank you for joining this next session. We're going to start right on time here so we can keep everything on track for the whole day. So this session is called Making Senior Home Relocation Seamless. And we've got some amazing panelists today that I will let introduce themselves. But the conversation is going to be a great one. And if you have questions during the session, please post them in the chat. I'll be moderating that and posing them to the appropriate person. So please use the chat if you have questions. And without further ado, I want to introduce our three amazing women panelists, powerhouses in their own right. Sherry from Compass Senior Living Solutions. Hello, Sherry. Thank you. And thank you as a sponsor of the event as well. We appreciate that very much. Marty Stevens Hebner with Clear Home Solutions and so many more things that you do. Marty, great to have you. And the one and only Ruth Refkin from Compass Real Estate. So nice to see you again. And thank you all for donating your time and expertise and to our event, Network and Navigate. And we're very honored to have all of you. So thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Of course, of course. So Sherry, why don't we start with you? If you don't mind introducing yourself to the group, to the audience, tell us who you are and what you do.
Thank you. I'm going to kick off your Q&A or your chat just to keep you busy. So I would
Sure.
love to know for anybody who is already joined or anybody in the future that might look at a chat and a question, I would love to know out of all of the participants joining us today, how many of you are actually in senior living, like in operating or in marketing, in even the placement agencies, right? Like how many of you are actively working with a senior living community or operators? So I'll kick that off. Sherry Biebel, CEO and founder of Compass Senior Living Solutions. I'm here really to speak specifically today about our financial advocacy program that we launched about 5 years ago. We predominantly work directly with the seniors and families who have already inquired to a senior living community. And what we have done is cultivated a incredibly robust group of resources that seniors and their families need to have knowledge of, be able to utilize to help their transition through their financial journey into a senior living community. So for the last 5 years, I have been networking and pulling together incredible partners to ensure that we have the best of the best that are available to work with our families. And then we work directly with those families to help educate them on the resources that are most appropriate for them. Once we understand their financial situation, we understand that, identify the most appropriate resources, and then we hold their hand through the entire process, which is really this lineup today could not be any better. Having real estate, move management, banking, understanding the financial side of the bridging of the gaps that need to happen occasionally, because we're working directly with the seniors and we pull in these incredible resources and again hold their hands through the entire process. A little bit more about me. I've been in the senior living industry for, I'll say, more than 20 years, probably closer to 25, but you know, don't age myself here. And my feet hit the ground every single day to identify pathways to achievement, and it is never for myself, it is always for those that are in our ecosystem. So I'm grateful to be here today. Thank you so much. um,
Thank you.
great to see you.
Thank you, Sharon. What you do is important. I've seen it firsthand because that financial component is a big, blockade for people to actually make the move. So I commend what you do, and I've seen it firsthand, and it's incredibly helpful for families to have that support. So thank you, Sherry. Marty, why don't you
Yes,
introduce yourself to the audience as well?
certainly. Marty Stevens Hebner. I'm the founder of and CEO of Clear Home Solutions. And clients and residents, they can't actually move to senior living or sell their house until they deal with what I call the personal property barrier. And that barrier is the thousands of items, sometimes tens of thousands of items in their homes, in their garages, in the sheds outside, maybe in the storage unit. And that's what Clear Home Solutions does. We have our trained specialists who come in and deal with every single individual item with the client, sorting it, packing it, selling it, donating it, shipping it to other their children, whatever. And we supervise the whole move, get the new home set up, and deal with the disposition of any of the items that are left behind in the home so that once we're done, Ruth can come in, realtors like her, and work their realty magic. And people don't realize the physical, emotional, and logistical challenges of moves. And we'll get into that a little bit later. But that's why our services are so important. And the almost 1,000 members nationwide are the services of senior move managers like my own company are so important. I'm also the president of the National Association of Senior and Specialty Move Managers. That's a mouthful. That's why we just say NASM, NASMM.org, where you can find really amazing companies throughout the country. And we're very proud because we were the first nationally accredited company in our industry in Los Angeles and Ventura counties. So
Great.
very
Marty,
proud of
thank
what we do.
you. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
I appreciate it. Ruth, let's turn it over to you. If you could introduce yourself and tell us what you do.
Thank you so much, Mark. So I'm Ruth Refkin. I am an associate real estate broker with Compass Real Estate. We're an international company with strong presence, obviously, in just about every market in the United States. And I'm also the founder and president of Compass Plus. So Compass Plus is a division within Compass Real Estate that focuses on helping seniors. And our mission is to elevate the way seniors receive their real estate services when they have to sell this home, which is part of the financial solution is in equity to this home. So it's an important sale. It has to be done well. It has to be done professionally. And unfortunately, we find that a lot of seniors are approached inappropriately by people trying to lowball them and buy the properties for a low price and not be straightforward with them. So it's part of our mission to protect seniors from scams and mistreatment of all kinds. And so we have a division within Compass. We have about 1,400 agents countrywide. We're growing every day. And the same as with Sherry and Marty, our process involves bringing people in. So sometimes we're brought in towards the end of the process when Sherry and Marty have already created their teams and now it's ready for the sale. A lot of times we're approached at the beginning of the process and we help to find the move managers and all that. So I think one thing that we will continue talking about as we go through this conversation today is you cannot help the seniors with this unless you're part of a collaborative team. None of us can do it alone. And it's very, very important to stay in our own lane, do what we do best, and bring in the other experts to help with all those needs. So that's a little bit about me.
Yeah, that's very, very well said. And it just so happens that we have two people on the call with the word Compass and the company name. Just to clarify, they're very different companies that do very different things. So I think you guys covered that well. But I just want to clarify that in case anyone was wondering how connected the two of you are.
It's just that
Um,
we all chose a great name.
you
Right.
did. Yeah. We
Here's
do a lot of
interesting.
navigating.
Exactly. That's exactly where it came from. Yeah,
Yeah, I
that's
would
cool that you
imagine.
touched on that.
Yeah, for sure. And so, as you very well put into words, Ruth, that coordination is really the key. And so, as you'll see, the design of this panel and the order in which we're kind of talking through things is exactly aligned with what you said, Ruth. And sometimes it's not the same direction or the same initial point of contact or the professional of contact that gets contacted first. but the idea is the coordination between all the parties, and what does that look like when it's going well, and what does that look like when it's not going well, or when there's a professional that should be there that's missing from the group, and how do we deal with that? So the flow, and when we were kind of coming up with the idea for this panel was, okay, the senior needs to move. They need to get their financial information. Like, how am I going to make the move? How can I even afford the next place that I need to be, whether that be, assisted living, memory care, whatever it is. That's where Sherry's company comes in. And then most of the time it's, okay, well, we can't sell the house until we get rid of all the stuff. And if we did sell it, I mean, Ruth, I'll get your comments on this in a bit, but if you try to sell it with all the stuff, you're probably going to sell it for less. So that's where Marty comes in, and the professionals within NASM come in to clear out the belongings, and then Ruth comes in to sell the property at top dollar and market it the right way, and do all the things. So that was kind of the idea behind the flow of the conversation today. So Sherry, I have some questions for you. We'll start with you first. So a lot of times families are under pressure when they make these decisions, right? It's not like, oh, take my time to make decisions. I would imagine, excuse me, in a lot of cases, it's crisis driven, or there's an event that happens, or a downturn in health, where they need to move fairly quickly. It's not a planned move over the course of 2 or 3 years. So, can you tell us a little bit about like what the financial decision making looks like when a family is under stress in that type of situation?
Yeah, thank you. I also want to frame up the senior living industry just a little bit, because the demographics are finally in our headwinds here, right? We've been struggling in senior living, specifically in communities, for many years, and that's shifting. But the mindset is also shifting. It has been predominantly a crisis driven decision, and it happens very quickly. But we're also changing the narrative right now because of the demographics coming at us. So our education going out today looks very different than it did 10 and 15 years ago. But the psychographic behavior of our seniors is very different today than it was 10, 15 years ago. Our families coming to us are more educated and very well researched, educated, have grown their net worth very differently. There are a lot of roots in their trees, right? Our silent and greatest generations, they had pensions and they relied on, with their home. And today's seniors are very dynamic. Their expectations are they're going to talk to experts. That's their expectation, which is why we have come together for this summit, for this conference, right? We used to say it takes a village to raise a child. It's going to take more than a village to help our families through the navigation into senior living. So what it looks like today and the way that it will change into the future, we are making progress. Things will change. Marty will come in much earlier in the process, as opposed to what happens today is I have to make a very fast decision. Mom fell, grandma fell, she's in rehab. We need to move her to assisted living. I need to deal with this house because I don't know how we're going to pay for this. So the decisions are typically triggered. Something has happened. And families have to make those decisions very quickly and without a lot of knowledge in many cases. So they'll sell a house to an investment group very quickly instead of speaking to a realtor, or they'll talk to a realtor that goes to church with them instead of somebody who maybe has a wider, greater network that can help grow to get a greater price out of that home. There's just things are happening too quickly for them. Our advocates, our financial advocates are helping to align all of the things that are going on, not only for that senior, because there's a lot to make that transition, but even for that loved one who has children and a job and grandchildren and is a volunteer somewhere, to really be their support, hold their hand through that process. So what it is today and what it might look like into the future, I think is going to evolve a little bit, and things will be more planned. I don't, the crisis transition is never actually going to completely go away. But I think families are going to help prepare themselves and their loved ones further in advance than what we have been doing.
Yeah. Well, and there's a lot of advocacy around planning ahead, and sometimes as many times, as much as people say it, it's you still end up with crisis situations. So it's probably
Mhm.
a mix. But the hope is that people are starting to plan ahead more and more, and the adult children who are maybe a little more savvy with these things about seeking out the
Right.
experts are helping in that
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah.
Um,
One other point on that is because they don't quite understand senior living, and they say, I have an attorney and I have a financial advisor and I've got the real estate figured out. What they don't know is senior living, not only themselves, but their professional network are not experts in senior living, right? So having somebody who's the nucleus, who understands everything they're going through and all the steps that they need to make, and truly understands senior living and the steps they need to make. It's like, you don't know what you don't know. You don't need to know because you have us.
right. Absolutely. And so talking about the kind of the full scope of what people go through, how do you think people are surprised by that? Like the different components that need to happen, because it's not just about selling the house, it's not just about moving the stuff. It's about so many different things. But what's
Yeah.
your take on that?
I'll say it in three words. It's financial, it's clinical, and it's emotional.
Yeah.
Your whole world. You
Yeah.
have to be able to pull all those things together, and making the transition from your home or your apartment, your condo, to a senior living industry. That's a transition for a senior. Guess what? It's a huge transition for that family as well.
Yeah.
That you don't even realize until you're there. The emotional, it's an emotional letting go of the real estate and the things that can sometimes be
And
easier.
their previous life
Yes.
as well.
Yeah.
And it impacts every
Yes.
generation.
Yes. Yeah.
Sorry.
So I was like financial, clinical, and emotional. Because the clinical might shift from crisis to stability, but that doesn't mean that it can't get worse. It can actually get better. We would love to see it get better.
Yeah.
Um, and living in a senior living in a senior living community typically will feel better, get better, have a good, robust life, right? Because they're not worried about the house and the maintenance and the grocery shopping and all the things that you have to do on your own. And they focus their energy into the things that they can enjoy on a daily basis. So there are so many transitions. Any families going through it, the first 90 days, oh, it's so hard. But you got to get to day 91, and all of a sudden it just kind of, the burdens come off. You can take a deep breath. You start to feel more confident and comfortable about where you are visiting and where your loved one is. You're just going to make it to day 91.
Yeah. That's the
It's
magical
interesting
bit.
because it's interesting, Sherry, because people call it relocation. I call it dislocation because you're gonna feel out of joint
Mhm.
until you've been living there for at least a couple of months.
Yep.
And through the whole process, people will talk to me about how like I'm crazy, I'm losing my mind, and I say, no, 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 you're not losing your mind, you're moving. What you're feeling is completely normal. It's awful, but this is
But
normal.
let
You're
me
not
help you.
losing your mind, right? Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah, great points. And so Sherry, what do you think should be happening? I know not everyone finds you, right? And Compass Senior
But
Living
they can.
Solutions. So I know they can and they should.
Thank
Absolutely.
you.
If we
Yeah,
have anything to do with it, they all will. But my megaphone only reaches so far.
I know. Mine too.
So what if you had to see like something that you see that you wish people had done earlier in the process that could have changed the outcome or
Mm.
the significance of the decisions that they're making shortly after?
We have worked with thousands of families over the last 5 years, and I could probably say tens and twenties and fifties of thousands in my career. There's no family is identical. So like you can't even say, I really wish everybody would do this. I would if there is one thing, it's going to be education, right? Just be open to learning what it is that senior living is, and then seek out the experts who can help you through it. So, education, but also open mind. Like
Right.
they can't. We don't have our. You did this. You put this together. So our silos broke down.
Right.
Our silos with all of our partners, all of us who are doing the best things that we can for seniors, we can't work in a silo. We all need each other. We need our families to think the same way. We need our communities to think the same way. So I would
Right.
say education on just the senior living industry and what is available to for your loved one, and really help your loved one understand that as well, so that
Yeah.
they're not in a silo. Like, I don't want to, I think we're getting a little bit further away from, I don't want to go there. I'm not ready for that yet. But I think we're
Right.
we're getting a little bit further away from that as I've gotten away from sitting in a seat in a community. It's becoming a little bit more mainstream. Penetration rates I think are increasing a little bit. People are more open-minded about a congregate living for their well-being, whether it's active adult and then growing from there. So I would say education about the industry, but also education within your family, education within what are your desires.
Right. Okay. Great insights. Okay, Marty, we're gonna shift to you next. So obviously there's a lot to manage with the move, as I'm sure you deal with on a daily basis. But what would you say families underestimate as far as what the process looks like just to be able to empty the house of the stuff and maybe prepare it for sale?
Well, especially when you're dealing with later life moves. I mean, Ruth really comes across this all the time, I'm sure, is that people have been living in those homes for at least 20, 30, sometimes 50 years. We once moved a man who was 89 and he was moving out of the home he had grown up in. He'd been born into, literally, and he was
Oh,
moving to assisted living. So it's not just the accumulation of all these thousands of belongings, but also they haven't moved in decades and life changes so fast. And so they don't really remember. It's kind of like, I guess, going into labor, like you forget how hard and painful that is. Otherwise, you never have another child or move again. And so they don't realize, they can't remember the huge physical components, the logistical components, and the emotional components of moving. And that's why you want to start as early as possible. The minute you have a little glimmer of, oh, maybe I want to move, start thinking about what you want to do with your personal property. Downsizing is always a good idea. Going through things with the seasons, or at least once a year, is a great idea. But especially, a move is not one task. It's several hundred different tasks dealing with thousands of objects. They keep saying that, the personal property barrier. And so they don't realize how much work is involved, and they think they can crunch it down into a few weeks. And that's just not realistic. I mean, we can do moves. I have a brilliant group of colleagues, my teammates. They are amazing, and we can do moves really quickly when we have to. But it is so hard on the client. We really want to make it as stress-free as possible, especially if there's even a modicum of memory loss or any cognitive issues, because there is this thing called relocation stress syndrome. And you're moving somebody who has memory loss from a place that they know, they've been there for years, and so they know it in and out. And so they can navigate it, even though they're losing their memory. You suddenly, and in a very stressful way, move them from there to someplace that's completely different. And the cognitive decline just goes, shh, it's
mm,
so bad. And so it really has to happen very in a way that's not only efficient, but also very respectful and compassionate in a compassionate way with them. And I want to go back to what echo something that Sherry had really been pointing out, and that's the emotional component. Because the homes, these are the places we inhabit. Home base, home means so much to us. Same thing with people's items. There are stories behind all of them. Think of it, your home is a museum of memories, and it needs to be curated, and it really needs to be seen as kind of a fourth pillar of the estate that someone has, because there's the legal, there's the financial component, there's the real estate of the estate, but there's also the tangible estate, the personal property involved that's so important and needs to be really respected and taken care of. And so I think professionals need to be thinking about that as well as people individually.
Yeah. Well, you brought up a good point about that downsizing or getting ready for a move shouldn't be a 2 or 3 week process. So when would you suggest, in a best case scenario, how far in advance of that move, not including spring cleaning, let's say a real like effort to be able to move out of the
Yeah.
house, how long of a process would you recommend to avoid making it more stressful than it needs to be?
Well, and Sherry knows this too. The minute they even think about talking to Sherry, and they need to, the minute they even think that they want to start planning for a move. Like, for example, actually, and I mean, I'm not a senior yet, just give me a few years. But I know in a few years I do want to move. And so I've already been kind of thinking through the process and starting to go through different areas of my home to get that ready to go. Because again, there's the financial component of what items are worth. There's it's the emotional attachment to a home, to a life the life they have been living, to the items that they have, their personal property. It gets ignored and discounted so much because you can't put actual financial value to sentiment. It's not possible. So it kind of gets brushed to the side because you can't put a number right on it. You can't weigh it specifically. But that is often the biggest barrier. For example, when an estate is being settled after someone has passed away, now, you all know this, they will fight over the house. Sure, they'll fight over the finances, but they will lose their minds over who gets grandma's torn up recipe book or somebody's old bomber jacket from whatever war. That's where the real battles ensue, and it really gets in the way of moving the process forward. So you need trained experts and specialists to really move them past that barrier.
Yeah. And so while we're on that topic, how do you navigate that if you've got family members who are fighting over the bomber jacket and you're politely saying, we need to exit the home soon? How do you navigate that? Because I'm sure it's more, I mean, I think in all of our industries, we're all partial therapists, whether we're trained and licensed to be that or not. I know for me, it's constant, you know.
Oh yeah.
We'll have a husband and wife, and one of them will tell us, "Oh, my spouse doesn't know about this debt that I have." So, some
Or the three
intertwined
storage units. Yes,
challenges.
yes.
Yeah, exactly. Hopefully, there's not like a whole nother family that we don't know about. Um, but how do you navigate those situations if you're trying to do a clean out and you've got family members who are literally doing a tug of war over that bomber jacket?
Yeah, yeah. Families butt heads. No, we've all seen it, all four of us, where get along beautifully until some proverbial poo hits the fan and they have to deal with this. This is when trained specialists in our various areas come in so handy. So in terms of navigating people through those fights and those issues around different items in the home, that's where the training comes in with what we do. Understanding, because you don't tell people what they can and cannot have. That's the worst thing you can possibly do. But what we know, what questions to ask and how to navigate, how to help to negotiate with different people, the different generations, the different kinds of personalities. We know how to help them navigate it. Like I say, the questions to ask, the guidance to provide, what to do when, as soon as the decision is officially made, how to either document, often document it, and also to just get it, okay, that's done, on to the next thing, to keep the process moving forward.
And I
So
would
really, it does take
imagine,
training.
and I would imagine that kind of expertise and training and all that is the difference between hiring a move management company and hiring a mover,
Hmm.
right?
Oh, yeah, and
Completely different.
movers, honestly, they don't want to do what we do.
Yeah.
They want to get in there, they want to pack things up, they want to get it to the other side and unload the truck and on to the next. And I love that because I don't want to do what movers do. You know what I
Right.
mean? We all have our lanes and our expertise. There are move managers who do things that some of them are also do realty or also do placement. We really like to stay in our lane because there's enough to do that we have to know and understand, and the idiosyncrasies of what we do and the subtle things too that we really want to focus on. And I don't want to have, those are dealing with real estate, dealing with placement, understanding all the different senior living communities and the financial arrangements. That's too much for my brain to handle. I like doing what I do and really getting to know it, really to the granular level so we can really help people as thoroughly as possible.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, great. Well, thank you for your insights. And
Thank
Ruth,
you.
we're gonna turn to you next. Certainly, last but not least in any stretch of the imagination. So let's say we've now gotten through the financial planning side of it with Sherry. We've gotten the stuff more or less out. The bomber jacket fights are now over. And a family ends up, calling you and saying, "Okay, I think we're ready." What sort of challenges or decisions are you dealing with the family at that stage?
Mark, if we always had it at that time, we wouldn't have as many challenges.
Right.
Unfortunately, the timing doesn't always flow as nicely as you just laid out.
Yeah.
I think, I think about the three T's in terms of making these transitions well. Timing, having a team, and talking to your family members and planning ahead. So I've come to believe that one of the worst diseases of aging is denial about the fact that we're aging. Nobody wants to face it. And aging is inexorable. Sherry talked about maybe they'll get better. The fact is they might get better for a while, but if you're every day you're getting older. So it's inexorable. That's where everybody's heading. And the sooner people think about that, the further ahead they plan, the better. And so one of the problems that happens is if I get the home before Marty shows up. And a lot of times it's because they haven't talked to Sherry yet and they haven't planned financially, so they cannot move until after they sell the home. And if you're selling a home that has all your stuff in it and you're still living in it, you're discounting your home by a very large amount. I mean,
Yeah.
the difference is, again, I can't give you specific percentage because it depends on the home and the location and all that. But from the buyer perspective, a buyer wants to look at a home and see themselves living in it. They do not want to look at home and see you living in it. And so that, right? And especially if it's an aging resident, um, you know, your home is that you raise your family in. Well, hopefully another family is going to come next and raise their family here. So they want to see it as the future and not the past. So sometimes we don't have that luxury. And we do meet people who need to move pretty quickly and they come to us. One of the things that we can do to help is Compass has a program called Compass Concierge, which helps us provide upfront money to pay for Marty, to pay for the move, and even to pay for the application fees in the first few months in assisted living. So people can leave the house before we sell it. And that's just really a very, very important part of maximizing that value. And we talked a little about emotions. I know we're going to talk about emotions more, but again, it's denial. You're holding on to the past, and that holding on to the past is going to make your future so much harder because the cost of assisted living, the cost of care for seniors moving forward is very large. And if it can't come out of their own assets and the family has to help out, which then creates a lot of family dynamic issues. I mean, it becomes quite a boondoggle.
Yeah.
So, um, I think the other thing that is a problem that I see in terms of that, and I have a feeling Marty will back me up on this, is people tend to overvalue the sales potential of their belongings.
Right.
People think that, oh, I have these antiques, I'm going to be able to sell them for a lot of money. First of all, and what is really an antique and what's something old is two different things.
This is very true.
The market for antiques isn't what it used to be. The young generation is not buying antiques, and they don't
Right.
want mom's old break front either. So
Or her china.
or her china or any of that stuff. And even though it has emotional value, I myself, I'm turning 81 this year, and I'm trying to be nice to my family by getting rid of stuff. And I constantly think, is my son really going to want this? Because I'm holding on to this stuff that from his childhood that are memories that he could have, that he might want to reference someday. But there's a lot I know he has no interest in and will never have interest in. So I think it's really important, you know, for us to be realistic with people about that.
Yeah. Well, and Ruth, I'll second that because the china that I got for my wedding, which was 24 years ago, still has the stickers on it. So I'm hoping my parents aren't going to give me theirs because it'll never get touched.
I'd like to give a brief example. This was actually an estate sale that we did, and the heirs were two step siblings, which makes things even more complicated. Um, and the brother who was here in New York, where I was selling the apartment, and the stepsister was in California, he was very sure that all this stuff was worth a lot of money. Okay, so he actually turned the apartment into an antique store and he was hoping people would come in and buy it. And he took months to do that. During those months, what happened in the United States was mortgage rates went way up, and an apartment that we could sell very easily became almost impossible to sell for months. I will say without any doubt that they lost $500,000 because of that.
Wow.
Absolutely minimum of $500,000 because it
Right.
sold for a long time and sold for less because he just waited too long. To what? To get an extra $20 on a piece of furniture.
That just means Marty has to sell the china for $500,000 to make up for it.
Right, well, yeah,
And
well, or
then,
what we do is we manage the expectations.
right.
Thing is, unfortunately, a lot of the stuff not only can't it be sold, a lot of people aren't even taking it for free anymore. Most of the stuff you have to pay somebody to cart it away at the end of the day. Um,
Right.
and then they get mad at you, right? It's my fault, right? It's not my fault,
Right.
because they're so sure it's worth so much. But nothing is worth anything that nobody else is willing to pay for it. May have
Right.
an intrinsic value to you, but if there's no market for it, sell it.
Yeah, what's the benefit? Well, and Ruth, I know with Compass Plus, you guys are really raising the bar as far as what the expectations are of the agents who join your group. So maybe you can talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, well, I talked a little bit before. The Compass Plus goals really to elevate the way seniors receive real estate services. And part of the way we do that as a group is educationally. There's a requirement that we are all senior certified senior advisors, which is a fairly exhaustive class and test that you have to take. There's also an ethics code that people sign on to with that and have a background check. So we're doing everything we can to on the one hand, elevate the good, but also diminish the potential bad of bad
And
ethics.
and Ruth, I'm just going to interject. So a senior real estate specialist will have SRES as a designation, right? That's what they should. Oh, they won't. All
two
right, now I'm
different
learning
things.
something.
I did not say SRES, I said CSA. SRES is the Senior Real Estate something. Uh,
Specialists.
Senior real estate specialist is a certification.
Advisors. So the reason we chose CSA over SRES is a few reasons. One, the SRES is not really a certification. It's just a designation you sign up for, and there's no requirements of study. I think there's a little bit of study, but it's not. The CSA is much more exhaustive in terms of that. But also the CRES is specifically real estate. Well, our real estate agents already know about real estate. We want them to know more about the reality of aging in America. And we found that the CSA program, the class really covered the wide range of aging in America, everything from, the legal, emotional, psychological, medical issues, Medicare, how does that work? The VA system, which I knew nothing about before I took that class. And Compass has a whole separate military division that just works with military and veterans, which is separate from Compass Plus, but we interact around those issues. Um, so the other thing about the SRES is it's only available to people in certain areas of the country, depending on the professional association that governs that area. So in New York City, we don't have an MLS. We have Real Estate Board of New York, and it doesn't sponsor the SRES. And I wanted something that, that'd be nationwide and all that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Thank you,
Let's,
Ruth. I did not know that. Thank you.
And I also want to say that aside from all of that, in order to join Compass Plus, they have to kind of pass the Ruth test, which means I want to talk to them. And I want, what's their motivation? Why do they want to do this? And if it conversation starts with, oh, it's this demographic niche and it's a silver wave and there's so much money to be made here, I thank them for their interest. I tell them that the luxury division is down the hall. But if I like and
I
who
love her.
Yeah,
Ruth is
right.
like the greatest lady I've ever met.
there's a lot of personality on this panel. That's on purpose.
No, because the people who really should do this, generally, when I ask them why they're interested, they start talking about somebody they love that they went through this with, or they saw go through these issues, and they want to be able to help. Um, and they're not people who have never worked with seniors. I don't bring in somebody who's never worked with a senior, and you can't train people to have the commitment and the I always say you can't give people motivation. If somebody's motivated, you can help guide their motivation and help them focus in the right direction. You also can't make anybody care that doesn't care.
Right.
So I want
I
people
actually have, sorry, go
here.
ahead.
I'm sorry, you go ahead.
Well, no, I was just going to say, I think all three of us probably when we're hiring or bringing realtors into your group, the key thing to look for is empathy.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
You can't, I mean, you can train people with technical skills and how to do things, but you can't teach them how to have empathy. I mean, if they want to go have therapy for years, go ahead, maybe they can develop it, but either you have it or you don't.
Yeah,
Mhm. Yeah.
the thing is also, look, we all are professionals, we all want to make a living, but the degree to which you're money motivated as opposed to being motivated by helping people, there's a
Mhm.
balance that's really important to us. So our motto at Compass Plus is mission before commission. And
Mm,
like I say, I'm not saying no commission. We do need to earn a living, but the mission has to come first. And the first thing that people need to know, if there's anybody on this call and listening in, is if you want to work with seniors, you have to have a lot of patience and you have to be patient about getting paid as well, because this is not a quick money business. There's a lot of easier ways and quicker ways to make money than what we're doing. People who, in this field, and I, like everybody on this call, I've met a lot of people in all branches of working with seniors, Um, you know, these are people who care and then didn't choose this as the way to become rich. They chose it because they believe in doing this and it's important to them. And they tend to function on a very high professional level, I find, which is, is very it makes me feel better because I know that unfortunately there's the opposite out there as well of people who are really just looking to see how they can go over on seniors. And we see this, Sherry hinted at it before when we talked about the investors who come in to buy homes. There's a lot of people out there looking for seniors, knowing that they need to sell and lowballing the price and coming in saying, oh, we'll just pay you cash right away. You don't have to advertise it, all that kind of stuff. And, it's just not right because people are losing money just when they need the money the most. And
Well,
you know
There's
that,
good. There's good and there's bad in every discipline, in every industry, right? I think it's our moral compass, right? Is that we're going to find like minded, highly ethical, incredibly driven by white glove, red carpet customer service who are, maybe we're not all designated as certified senior advisors, but we are all here to work with the senior population and their families. Their families may not be seniors, but we know the emotional challenges and the emotional things that they're going through and the barriers that they're going to hit, that we can help alleviate those barriers before they even get there. And then the other thing I want to touch on is that we can also say good and bad. We see transactional. You can't be transactional with these families, right? With
No.
these seniors. That I will tell you, just in my experience in the last 5 years in our advocacy program, and part of the reason why we're so incredibly successful being partnered with senior living communities is that the pressure and the responsibility of those frontline team members, those frontline staff members, the sales directors, the executive directors working in those communities have so much pressure on them and so much responsibility, and things are coming at them so quickly that an average senior living community will get 60 new inquiries on a monthly basis. That's one salesperson handling 60 new inquiries. Well, if they're talking to 60 new people every single day, where are the other 200 that have inquired into their community, and how are they nurturing them to give them the answers that they need to help
Yeah.
them make the decision? That's just, I can give you a yes or no answer. I can give you 5 minutes out of my day to help you understand the community and how you might fit there. But this family is thinking through, I have all of these things going on in my life right now, and I have to figure out, how is this going to be a long term fit? How do I handle this financially? How does my current financial situation transition to this? What resources are out there and available for us to be able to utilize? By the way, I got a long-term care policy and no idea what to do with it, right? There's
Oh,
so much.
no.
So I wanted to touch on that. There are a lot of people, even in what we do, that are very transactional.
yeah.
Yeah.
We are all
Yeah.
advocates. We are here for the right reason. We have the right ethical policies and feelings, right? Our philosophy. Ruth, I love your mission before commission. Like that's a thing,
That
something
is
that's gonna
so
stick
great.
with me forever.
Yeah.
That is
Well, and
the
you know,
most
this,
simplistic way of saying we are incredible, good people.
we try.
yeah, and we care about you, and we're going to do the best job possible. I will say one of the things I'm very proud of with with our national association is we have a very official code of ethics. And one way you can get yourself in trouble and kicked out of the organization is by violating any part of that code of ethics.
Yeah.
Well, and
It's
You
so important.
Ruth was touching on it earlier that, it's, I'll speak for myself. It's harder to do a loan for a senior than it is for a move up buyer,
Yeah.
millennial, whatever. It's harder. There's more components to it. And you said Ruth, you mentioned that you tend to have a higher level of professionals. And I think, in my opinion, the reason that is because it's not just about selling the real estate. It's not just about getting a loan. It's not just about moving the stuff. There's tax implications. There's life decisions. There's family dynamics that don't play. Like if I'm buying a house, my family has nothing to say about it, right? When I'm a
Right.
senior and I'm selling a house that eventually my kids are going to inherit that money, okay, now there's dynamics involved. It's way more complicated. There's way more
It,
winds blowing in a million directions that if you're not committed to the process and you don't have a heart for that and for people going through that situation, you're in the wrong field.
And there's no
Well, yeah,
perfect
yeah.
family. There's
Well,
so
I
many.
mean,
What do you think? Step halves, like double marriages, and then
oh, the
grandparents got
blended families,
remarried, and now
yeah.
they're like bringing together four families. I mean, we've got some crazy stories as well. Whereas previous generations really didn't have that. They had their, husband and wife and their children were a much more complex
Well, and
family.
also the thing is, our culture refuses to talk about aging. We're just starting to finally, but people don't want to acknowledge that there's an end. And that creates in the mind of the older adult, having to recognize that they're closer, much closer to the end than the beginning, and having to acknowledge that. And again, in a culture that will not talk about this, with a healthcare system that is very tricky to navigate, to say the least, not to mention very expensive, which is why, Sherry, what you do is so, so, so important. But also there's the adult children. I mean, they're dealing with, in a way, facing the loss of their parent as well, and having to take on the sandwich generation, having to deal with their older parents as well as their children. And I think we're very close to the point now. There's this, I don't think it's happened quite yet, but I think by the year 2030, it's going to happen, where there will be more adult children taking care of their older relatives than will be taking care of children. And that will be for the first time in human history. So there is this enormous shift going on. And we're talking about all these emotions and sentiments that get in the way in different places, there are barriers in different areas of this journey. And it's driven so much by the fact that we don't really talk about aging and the end in our culture. I'll step off my soapbox now.
Hey, one thing that I didn't get a chance to say before, because I think this is really important to understand. We talk about the timing, and we all concerned about the timing because people wait too long. One of the things that we want people to know is you don't have to put your home on the market before you value it. You value it first. So even if the senior's not ready to move, the family's not ready to make those moves, blah, 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 all that, you can still bring in a real estate professional and say, could you just value this home for us? So even if it's 10 years from now, let's have some idea of what it's worth. And that's a free service that any good real estate, I mean, of course we do it. We love you to come to Compass, but you don't have to come to Compass for that. Any professional good real estate agent will do that for you. And if they won't, don't ever use them, and do it for free and come in and say, sure, whenever you're ready, you can call me. And it's also fine to ask for more than one opinion from different real estate agents. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I expect it. I expect that when I'm making a presentation to sell your home, that you've had a competition in there too. Why not? You should. So I really think it's important people do that because people have quite often, quite a wrong idea of how much their home is worth. And believe it or not, people err on the side of thinking it's worth too little a lot of times. They don't know what they're sitting on quite often.
Right. That's a
Interesting.
good point.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we're starting to run short on time, and I have a few rapid fire questions that I would like each of you to answer with a word, a thought, maybe a sentence. You choose. Um, but okay, and we're gonna mix it up. So Marty, we'll start with you first.
Mhm.
First thing that comes to mind, one mistake that creates the biggest downstream problem.
Just not planning ahead, not making enough time, not recognizing how much goes into actually dealing with all the personal property, whether you're moving or settling an estate.
Okay, good answer. Ruth, same question to you.
Well, I agree with that, but also thinking you have to do it all yourself.
Mhm.
Yeah, takes
So,
a village.
yeah.
All
Mhm.
right,
Yes.
Sherry.
I would say assumptions. We have so many families that just assume they don't have the financial resources to be able to help their loved one. They assume they don't qualify for a veteran benefit. They assume that they can't ever get out of their reverse mortgage. There are so many self-qualifying missteps in life, period. But when you get into that crunch zone of when there is a crisis or you know that a move needs to happen, do not make any assumptions. Call the experts.
Right. Yeah. And it definitely takes a village because one expert, we've all talked about it. Not one expert can solve all the problems that these people are dealing with.
Exactly.
Okay, now since the audience is professionals, I guess Sherry, we'll start with you. We'll go backwards order. One thing professionals need to start doing differently or more of.
I gotta say, we gotta break down the silos. There are a lot of move managers. There's a lot of realtors. There's a lot of financial advisors. We're not financial advisors, but I'm just saying, like, there's so many people that need help that we're going to be so much better if we just work together and just break down the silos.
Right. And thank you for saying that because I was in my opening remarks when we first started this session, that was exactly the purpose of this event. Because we see it. We see, I don't know, let's say a real estate agent who doesn't know about capital gains tax, but they want to sell properties for seniors, or we'll see,
Yes.
I mean, it can be any combination of people that don't know even the basics. You don't need to know how to solve the problem. In my
Hmm.
opinion, the goal of this event is to teach people when to raise a flag to say you might need to talk to a different professional, not me, but maybe a
Hmm.
different professional. So I like that
Yeah.
answer. Okay, Ruth, same question to you.
Well, we keep on coming up with the same answers, but I come from a different
That's
perspective.
fine.
One of the principles of Compass, we call them our 8 principles of entrepreneurship. One of the main principles I love the most is collaborate without ego. And that we,
Mm,
I think that that's the thing about building a team, collaborating. And I do want to say you don't have to monetize every collaboration you do. Build your team. Sometimes just bring in somebody and learning from them. You know, let's be a little more humble, not feel that we have to know everything and do everything ourselves. I have been so blessed to meet so many wonderful people that work with seniors in different fields, and I swear every single conversation. So I got to thank Marty because I'm walking away with your home is a museum of memories today. I wrote that. I love that.
You put a
So
lot of great taglines on this one.
yeah, but be humble. Don't feel you have to know everything. Ask questions. Bring in the expert. Stay in your lane.
Yeah. All right, Marty, same question to you. One
well, I
thing
want
you
to
think
thank Ruth for
professionals need
educating
to
me.
do.
Well, and also going back to like educating yourself, and yeah, Ruth educated me about the whole thing with the CSA versus SRES. So, like I say, realize you don't know everything and be open to new information. But also in our case, with what senior move managers do, with also what sometimes we're called transition and estate specialists, is that people don't know we exist. And we're getting the word out there and making sure that people know, but just know, I mean, there are so many services that people don't know exist. I'm also launching a new venture that Mark knows about called Age-Wise Alliance. And one component of it is a glossary that details 80 plus different professions and defines them all so people can understand just how much assistance there is out there for you.
That I want.
And what?
I want that list of
Yeah.
building. That's wonderful.
Yeah. And I think a common thread that we've all kind of been talking about is to strengthen your professional network and spend time and energy even when it's not for the sake of a specific referral. I think as salespeople, because we're all kind of in sales to a degree, we're so trained to go and hunt for a deal or
Yeah.
a transaction or something like that. But really spending time to develop relationships with the right people. Sometimes it's not business you're going to do with them, but it's their expertise that you can lean on to be better at your own job, or to, again, raise a flag, connect those silos, all these different things that we've been talking about. I would say if I get to add one thing, because I know this is more about you guys than me, but I would say really spend the time to develop your professional network. Come to events like this, meet people, go into the networking room, engage with our speakers, which your information is on the site. So I hope that people will reach out to you and engage and develop those relationships one to one. We definitely encourage that. And I just want to say thank you. We are at full time now. This is the
Yes.
only session that went all the way to
Thank
an
you so
hour, so
much.
that's a good sign.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Of course,
Such
I
a
really
pleasure.
appreciate all of you joining, and we're going to have a little bit of a mini break to go visit exhibitor booths.
Oh, good.
So please do that. Grab a bite to eat, grab a drink, whatever you need, a little more coffee. And then at 3:30 Eastern, we're going to have a session about data ethics, misuse disclosures in senior marketing,
Mm.
and also a little bit of touch on fraud, which is going to be another topic we're going to have a couple sessions about. So stay tuned, more to come. Thank you all for an amazing panel. That was really fun, and
Thank
I
you,
appreciate
Mark.
all of you.